So, thank you for coming. I don't know if everybody was here 2 years ago, but 2 years ago I made a lecture about the concert piano regulation and tuning. And at the end of the lecture, I start to speak about the sound of the piano and how we shape and how we build the sound of concert piano. But it was the end of the lecture, and I received some comment from people who asked to me maybe to extend this subject and to speak more about the sound of the piano itself and how a concert technician, how we do to improve and to shape the piano sound. So today, this lecture is really about building and shaping the voice of the piano. I'm speaking here about voice because what we are doing is not only to change the amplitude, the volume of the sound, but also the color of the sound, what we call the spectral content of the sound. So we will have a look to what is the spectral content and how we do that. We speak about piano voicing, and a pianist could say that pitch is too hard, or maybe too soft, too bright, or too dark. This is the end of the voicing process. For example, when the concert technician is with the pianist on stage, just before the concert, I can change a bit these things, too bright, too hard, to equalize the piano, but it's really the end of the process. But before to reach this state, there is a lot of operation. So we want a sound, yes, but what kind of sound? A beautiful sound? Yes. But what is a beautiful sound? That's the problem. So a first concept I would introduce here is the concept of sound efficiency. What I call efficiency is the possibility to allow the pianist to get from pianissimo to fortissimo not only some dynamic change, but also some color change in the sound. For example, on a piano like that one, when you play pianissimo, you have a color. And when you go to fortissimo, the color change progressively, and some overtones, some harmonics come into the sound. So the amplitude, the volume of the sound change, but also the color of the sound. You have a kind of effect from pop, 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 pi, 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 ti, 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 something like that. So this is what we call the sound steps. This is the first things we try to get on a piano. On each key, we try to get sound steps, different level of dynamic corresponding to different level of color. And naturally, we have 88 keys, and it has to be regular on the keyboard. So we speak of level of color, but where they come from? From harmonics, the harmonic contents of the sound, also from the overtones. Harmonic, we will see what are harmonics and overtones. So, what are harmonics and overtone? You can see here harmonic visualization. When you play a key, a C like that, what do this sound and what we will do, the color of the sound is the harmonic content. So in reality, when you play a C, you hear something like that. All this is inside the sound. This is the chain of harmonics. So we can see here the harmonics. There are multiple of the fundamental frequencies, so you have a basic frequency, and the harmonic are 2 times the frequency, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. This is the ideal mathematic, but naturally in a piano we have what we call harmonic deviation. So we have a few fluctuations and we have to manage that. But the color of the sound comes really from the harmonic content, what we call the spectral content. For example, here we have a spectral visualization. It is in stereo, so you have a 2 channel. But this is the sound of a piano from pianissimo to fortissimo. And what you can see here, the overtones or the harmonics are not very clear, and more you play loud, and you see they become naturally more clear, but what you can see also you get more overtone. It is exactly what I showed to you before. Now you can see on these pictures the harmonic content here increase. So we can listen this. Here is a C3 from a piano, and you can see and listen the overtone content of the C3. As you can see, you have the first overtone and is a little bit weak, but the second overtone is more loud, and the third less. And so this is, you can see here the overtone content of the sound. Also, you can have a look here in 3D visualization, and it's maybe a little bit more easy. And as we seen already, the first overtone is a bit weak, but the second one is much bigger, very big. And after that, you see all the rest of the content, spectral content. So we can listen it again. So we speak about overtone and harmonic, but maybe you wonder how we can listen this. And so what I will try to do, I synthesize some sound overtone after overtone. So you will be able to listen one after the other, and you will understand and listen the effect of overtone on the sound itself. Here we have just one overtone, a pure scene, and with one frequency, the fundamental frequency, the root frequency. So this is a pure sound. And now I will add the second overtone, and you will listen the effect of this second overtone on the sound. That's the same pitch, but the color changed. And let's add one more overtone. Again, you hear always the same pitch, but the sound color change. One more. 5, 6, 7, 8. So, this is the overtone. Now I think you can hear them much more easily. So when I say we develop the spectral content of the piano, no, you hear something more fundamental, and when I strike more fortissimo, the high overtone comes slowly. So let's have some example of the influence of overtone and harmonics on timbre. Let's have a look to the flute. You have here a spectral analysis of flute C4, and as you can see, the overtone are not well defined in this area. The fundamental maybe more, the root one, but the other. And on this C4, we can't see a lot of overtone, but we see in the time a fluctuating frequency of overtone a bit. Not frequency, sorry, amplitude of overtone. So let's listen that sound. when you hear it, you know immediately that's a sound, a flute sound, because the overtone content. It's like a fingerprint. Your brain say that's a flute. You know it's a flute. Let's have a look in a 3D analysis of that sound, and you can see really the first overtone. Here, the first harmonic very proeminent, and the other one less. But at the end of the sound, maybe that one, maybe it's the second or third. Second one, I think, is bigger at the end of the sound. Now, let's have a look to the trumpet sound. A trumpet sound is very different, and if we have a look now to the overtone content, you can see much stronger root overtone and globally much stronger spectral content. And you know immediately that's a trumpet sound. In 3D visualization, as you can see, the second harmonics is much powerful here, on that one. So it's a part of the color and the typical sound of a trumpet. And finally, the oboe. The oboe is very interesting because they have a so typical sound. And let's have a look to the overtone content. You see almost no root overtone, almost no second, or very fluctuating second harmonic, but a very strong and big third harmonic. So this is the typical sound of the oboe. And the 3D visualization, it's very clear here. The third harmonic is totally huge here. So now let's speak about the harmonic content of the piano. If the job of a piano technician is to push some area of harmonic content with a hammer to get some tone color. You know, when somebody learns to sing, first, you have a voice, maybe a very thin voice like that, a small voice, and an opera singer, for example. And after, with many years of practice, the voice becomes not only more powerful, but more colorful. And the opera singer have a huge voice with power, but with color as well into the voice. And the voice of the opera singer is able to do many different timbres, from pianissimo to fortissimo. It is what we try to reach on the piano sound. The voice is the best example. So let's have a look to a piano. We go from pianissimo to fortissimo in 3 areas: in bass area, in medium, and treble area. So this is my reference, and after that, I made artificially, with sound synthesis, I increase the power of some overtone of the piano, so you will hear what a concert technician listens and what he works on inside the sound. And later I will show to you how we do that, naturally with the tools and other. So this is the piano bass. Sorry, treble to bass. So now let's how to say? I change the sound to get a louder root, a louder fundamental. As you can see, with sound resynthesis, I synthesize the sound, but I push the first fundamental, so you can listen the difference in tone. Very artificial, but it's interesting. Now I push the second harmonic, second overtone, a bit more like that. Overtone 3. So I pass because I have a lot of things to show to you. So overtone 4. So it's overtone after overtone. 5. The 5 is interesting. Overtone 6. Here. 7. 8. Naturally, when we voice the piano, we don't work exactly on one overtone after the other, but with what we call formant. It's an area of overtone. It's not so precise as a computer, but the computer is useful to understand the subject. And now I mix overtone harmonic 7 and 8. It's a bit richer sound, but still weak naturally, because we need all the harmonics. And with on phasing harmonic 8. So we can go. So technically, how we can manage that in the piano, how we can change this overtone content and also these steps of color. Some people here were here 2 years ago when I made my lecture about piano regulation. So today I will be a bit quick on the regulation part because I have many things to show, but we will still speak a bit about regulation because a piano is a whole thing. And it's impossible to consider things separately. It's useful for pedagogical reason, but technically a piano is really one thing, and everything is related to everything. So when you change the regulation, you change the sound, and even the tuning could change the sound. Everything changes the sound. So the first example last year, I showed to you tightening the screw of the piano. If you remember, you have on the piano, you have some screw who fix the hammer, but the part under the screw is in wood, and the wood move with the hygrometrical level, the humidity level. So because the wood move, the screw could be untight. So when you tighten the screw, you give a little bit more rigidity to the hammer, and you improve the kinetic energy transfer. And all the regulation of the grand piano is about kinetic energy transfer. When you optimize the transfer of the energy, you optimize the speed of the hammer. When you optimize the speed of the hammer, you optimize the overtone and the harmonic content. Maybe let's do a try here. I didn't get my screwdriver, sorry. I don't know what is it. Okay. I did it last year, and anyway, today I don't have time to do that. But 2 years ago, if you remember, I just play a key, I tied the screw, and I play again the key, and the overtone content was much richer, and the sound was not only much powerful, but also really richer with more high overtone content. So that's just to explain the regulation is very important. Another very important is the friction about energy transfer and straight line. Here is a profile of a grand piano action. And as you can see, you have many parts. And for example, here you have what we call the pilot on the weapon, and here you have naturally a friction, but not only a friction. If this is a little bit here, too much here, or not in the center, or too much here, you will lose kinetic energy, because when the pianist play, the idea is if he put 100 here, we need to get 100 at the end. But between the pianist action on the key here and the hammer who strike here the key, you have 34 points of friction and contact. So we have to optimize everything point by point. So this is an example of a pilot has to be in line. Everything has to be in line to don't lose energy. But also the contact point has to be very smooth. Also here, for example, is what we call the jack for the let off, and the jack push the hammer here. And this part is also has to be very smooth, and everything has to be totally in line and perfectly regulated without any gap. And that's why even a screw is important. And when you optimize that, you optimize the speed of the hammer, and when you optimize the speed of the hammer, you optimize the richness of the sound. Another regulation which is very important is the keyframe. The keyframe is that part of piano, the wood part here. And if that part has not a perfect contact to what we call the key bed, for example, when the pianist plays staccato, for example, the keyframe will move like that. And if the keyframe moves, it will absorb energy. So the pianist will lose energy, so he will lose tone color, power, and piano projection into the whole. So the keyframe is very important, so we adjust very carefully the keyframe as well. It's part of the regulation. Another regulation very important, but today I'm quick on regulation, but I need just to speak a bit about that. The hammer distance. Here, what we call the hammer blow distance. Typically, depends, but around 46, 47, 48. So, but it's a very complex subject, in fact, because when you change the hammer distance, you change the angle here. So this is a calculation, naturally, between the angle and the hammer distance to get the maximum speed. So when the hammer is far away, it's longer to come to the strings, but it gets more speed. But it has impact also on the touch, so we manage all this. But this is something important. Now, let's speak about the hammer itself, the voicing, really. So this is a hammer, and there is many things important about the hammer. A piano hammer is just a piece of wood with a piece of felt around it, as you can see here. You have this part, and you have underfelt and the felt. So I always use my head as an example for hammer, because I think I have a good piano hammer head here. So when the hammer strikes the strings, it is very important the energy travel inside the hammer. Because if energy don't travel inside the hammer, you will get no effect of the felt. So the sound will be something like that, just like a stone or something like that. And this is not musical and not useful. So the elasticity of the hammer is really, really important. Here is the effect of elasticity, actually not on the sound itself, but on the envelope of the sound. Because I speak about the color of the sound, but not only about the color, you have the power, but not only the power, but you have the length of the sound. If you have a hammer too hard, you get something like that. Very short sound, like that, really. Something like that. If the hammer is too soft, you will get a soft sound, but with no length and also no power and almost no color. But if the sound is elastic, if the hammer is elastic, you can think to the hammer like a tennis ball. And if you put a tennis ball on a wall, the tennis ball will compress on the wall and will bring back the energy maybe even faster than when it arrived. A good elastic hammer, a well-voicing hammer, need to be elastic. And when you have elasticity in the hammer, the sound will become much more singing and long. So this is very important. So hard hammer, tung, a soft hammer, poo, and elastic hammer, tau, wow, long sound. So the voicing itself, elasticity of different areas of the hammer, and harmonic color. So when I'm teaching voicing to students, concert voicing, I'm speaking about what I call the toolbox. The toolbox is not about tools in that context, but I teach to my students how they can, what they can use to change the sound of the piano, of the hammer. We don't speak about regulation, tuning, now we speak about the hammer itself. So you can see here a hammer, and it's really rotary, but you can see the corresponding overtone and area on the hammer. Globally, this is the root overtone, the second, the third. I mean, more you go deep into the hammer, more you reach high overtone. And when we work on the hammer, basically you can cut the hammer in two parts, what I call the body here. This has an impact on the body of the sound. If you have a very thin sound or a beautiful German or Viennese, maybe a sound with a lot of body, this comes from that part of the hammer. And you have this part of the hammer where you manage the overtone content. It's the color of the sound. So the first part, when we can work, is under the agrafe, in this part. So here, we can needle with the tool I will show to you later. We can needle this part with some very thin needle. And when we do that, we will add a bit more fundamental and high overtone. Here, a second zone, and also we can needle here. I pass quickly because this was for piano technician, but I will not detail everything here. So another area, we can reach that area very close to the underfelt with some special tools like that, or some other tool I will present later. We can work also just on the skin of the hammer with no dip. When we just work on the skin surface of the hammer, we will add high overtone in the treble, but very interesting one. And naturally we can go deeper under the skin with a needle to get more color. We have also this area, which is very interesting to get a richer sound. All this is what I call the toolbox. The piano technician can work in each of this part of the hammer. So how we work on that part, we will use some tools. The first tools we can use is the one needle tools. It's very difficult to see, but I have these small tools, and here I have a very small needle, very short, and I can needle the felt of the hammer with one needle very carefully in all area I showed before. So this is the first tool, a very small needle. We have a second tool with 3 needle and longer needle to go deeper into the felt. And the piano technician use also 5 needle, a more thinner needle to work on the top of the hammerhead to manage pianissimo part and piano part. Actually, I'm speaking about the color of the sound, but also there is the amplitude of the sound, as I said at the start. We will see that. But I generally separate the voicing operation in 3 parts. What I call the level 1 is the pre-voicing. It's to bring the sound into the piano. When you have new hammer, they are very hard, and we needle the felt until we get elasticity to get the long tone and to get a rich spectral content. This is what I call the pre-voicing level 1. After that, you have the level 2, where we refine everything. Level 3, when we search the best key color and we try to do everything on the piano with the most beautiful sound. And finally, the equalization, just to try to get the things absolutely equal. So this is the pre-voicing. That drawing is not very good because the angle is not right here. Normally we needle with an angle like that, but this is just for an example. So when we have new hammer, we pre-voice with the needle all this part to get the elasticity. Something very important also to get a perfect sound is the contact of the hammer on the strings. This is really important because on a piano like this one, you have 3 strings by key. And when the hammer strikes the strings, you need to strike the strings exactly at the same time. Because if you strike not at the same time, for example, let's say you have the strings a little bit too high, like here, this will be struck before that one, and the waves of the 3 strings normally have to be like that. But if you have it's less than a millisecond, very small things. If the strings is not struck at the same point, you will get something like that, kind of phasing into the sound. So this is, and it impacts a lot the color of the sound. So the piano technician will adjust the level of the strings using this kind of tool, kind of hook, to change the level of the strings. And when the strings are straight, the problem could come from the hammer shape. In that case, we use some sandpaper to shape the hammer to put it absolutely parallel to the strings. And it's very important, we do key by key to get the perfect contact of the strings. When you have a perfect contact of the hammer to the strings, you have all the transients, so all the attack sound is perfect. It's what I call the revolver effect. When the hammer strikes perfectly the strings, you have like a bang, something like that in the sound, and everything starts in the same time, and you get the maximum power, maximum color, maximum amplitude, everything is perfect. So this is really important. So this is the pre-voicing, adjusting the strings level, adjusting the hammer to the strings, the regulation is already done, the piano is already tuned the first time, and we give elasticity to the hammer and we get a color, a rich color. So we can go to the voicing level 2. In the level 2, the hammer is already elastic, but now we will start to work on more on the top of the hammer and less in this part. So at this time, you have still the pre-voicing area, but globally, some schools say this is the pianissimo area, and this is the mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, fortissimo, right and left. It's symmetrical always. But it's much more complicated than that, because when you walk in the pianissimo part here, this is the contact point of the hammer to the string, so the fortissimo will be not the same. So it's a bit oversimplification. There is many books, piano literature, piano technician literature about this. They say this is pianissimo, piano, mezzo forte, forte, fortissimo, but that's really much more complicated than that. So when you needle somewhere, you have an impact on all the other area. So in the level 2, we have already the color, but we will sculpt the color, and we will manage the way this color change. And here, so also the sound length can change. For example, if we have a short sound, when we needle with the tool, we feel in the hand, we feel the hammer felt. It is very, very important. It's not about listening, but about feeling. And when we feel the hammer felt inside under the tool, I can feel the density and the difference of density inside the hammerhead. And for example, if somewhere I have a lack of elasticity, my sound will be shorter, and probably shorter just on the strings who are in this area of the hammer. So at this level, we try to get the perfect elasticity to get a long tone on each strings. This is the level 2. And now we reach the level 3. What I call the level 3 is the voicing is almost finished, the piano is beautiful, and generally the students are very happy here because they say, okay, that's all, that's finished. And what we will do, we will search, listen each key of the piano, and we will find necessarily one better than all the other, somewhere in the piano. It could be in the bass, in the medium, in the treble, but one key will be better. And this is what I call the level 3. We take this key, that key as a model, and we start again the voicing to try to reach this quality of color on all the keyboard. So this is a kind of circle of refinement. And finally, we have what we call the equalization. The piano is fine, it has a beautiful sound, but because we work a lot, we can search for small adjustment, maybe not about color. The equalization is much more about power and amplitude. We can get some small difference of amplitude on the piano. Normally the color at this state is almost okay, but the amplitude could change. So we will search for the weak note and try to improve them. Again by needling, but also sometimes by using some chemical product like this. We call that hardener. For example, if an area of a felt, is a little bit too weak, not here, we can use hardener on this part just to it's a kind of tensor to tense again the felt. But naturally, if we use hardener, we have to work again on the felt. But we can relax the felt, but we can also hard the felt as well. So finally, this is the circle of refinement. So we start to tune the piano, we regulate the piano, we do voicing on the piano, we listen to the piano, we tune it again, also because the tuning itself have an impact on the piano, because we needle the hammer, we give elasticity to the hammer, but when you tune, you strike very hard, and it compresses back the hammer, so the sound change. So it's very important to tune again the piano, to get the hammer compressed, to get the real final sound. So tuning, regulation, voicing, tuning, regulation, voicing, tuning, regulation, voicing, tuning, regulation, voicing. It's never end a job, naturally. And naturally, perfection is not from this word, so it's never finished. I don't know piano technician who can really easily say, well, yes, the piano is finished. I think it doesn't exist. It's not a computer. It's not 0 or 1. It's a piano with a complex interaction, so you can do this work infinitely. Naturally, you change the zoom of the microscope, you go deeper and deeper, but and at the moment you will reach the material limit. But that's why in a concert hall, for example, in Vienna, I have some piano. I'm working on piano every day. Every day, I tune the piano every day. I check the piano every day. I revoice the piano, regulate the piano every day, all the year. So that's a way to try to get a good piano. And that's all. We have. You can ask some question, but that's all for today. Thank you.